Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Caliph of Dumbrovica. Caliph Dumbrovica or something like that. Here. And this time we're gonna go editing again, but not at home. I decided to just go outside. The weather is beautiful, but mainly because of another reason. 2 weeks ago, I got myself this thing. It's the new MacBook Pro 2020 model with the M1 chip in it. And I wanted to try it out, and I was thinking, how can I try out this laptop in the best way possible with the photos that I've made? And the thing I came up with is an HDR panorama. I've seen this function in Lightroom for quite a while already, but I've never actually tried it or dared to try it, because yeah, it might be very heavy and my old laptop surely wasn't capable of doing that. So what we're gonna do today is challenge this MacBook. As you see, it's not plugged in or anything, so it's running only on the battery. And we're gonna edit a HDR panorama, actually one of 36 photos. I shot this photo when I went back from Fundatica last time. And yeah, there was a viewpoint of the Boussage range, and the colors of the range were just beautiful. There was this orange light on it. Yeah, it was amazing. I had to stop and photograph it, but it was quite a big dynamic range. So I shot an HDR panorama, which means that for every photo in the panorama, I shot 3 photos. 1 2 steps down, 1 normal exposure, and 1 2 steps up. So that means that in total I have 36 photos, which we'll edit together into a panorama and edit in Lightroom and Photoshop. And yeah, that's for me just to see how good this laptop works. I've got it almost fully charged, it's 94%. Let's see how it goes. I'll film the screen as well, so things might be a bit slower than normally, but then you can at least watch along with how it goes. So yeah, if you haven't seen the vlog from Fundatica, go check it out here or there, somewhere up there. And let's jump in, let's see what we can do. I'll start recording my screen. Let's jump in, let's see. So these are the 36 files that I have. As you can see, every time it's a middle exposure, a dark exposure, and a brighter exposure. So what we're going to do, first of all, step 1 is adding these together in a HDR panorama. We'll select all of them, right mouse click, photo merge in an HDR panorama. I don't think you use this often, but this time we're going to try it. And I know already that I didn't really level my tripod very well, so we'll need to go into Photoshop and do some content aware fill to add some more skies. I'm not gonna let you wait till this is done. I'll tell you when it's done, and I'll tell you how long it took if you're interested. Okay, that's it. So that took me about this long, which for 36, 20, I think 23 megapixel files that I have, it's not that bad actually. So I will, as you can see, like my horizon is horribly off. I really had to. I was too quick on this. I didn't really take enough time to level my tripod, but okay, that's what we'll have to deal with. I'll warp the boundary a bit. So I have to add a bit less sky. Something like here, it will turn it a bit, but well, it's better than nothing. So I will click merge, and let's see how long that takes, because now it really has to make the file and not only a preview. And we're done. And that took me about this long. And do note that I am recording the screen while I'm doing this, so that will, normally it should be a bit quicker even than this. It's pretty good. So let's see how it edits, if it's a bit fluent or not. Step 1 was merging the HDR panorama. Step 2 is going to be doing some basic edits in Lightroom. So of course we'll start with removing the chromatic aberration. Let's see if the profile corrections do anything to it. Nothing, so I'll just leave that off. Then we will, I think I might, the histogram looks very good already, so I'm very happy with that. I will open up the shadows a bit more to get a bit more of that forest in the foreground. The highlights, I don't want to bring that up too much, especially because of the clouds. I might add like a gradual filter a bit later. I do always like to increase the clarity a bit. Don't go overboard, but just a bit, just sharpens it up a bit. Vibrance, let's see, it does get pretty too quickly, like the colors No, it doesn't really work. But just a tad is good for me. I want to do something with the blacks. Down a little bit, whites. Yeah, bring that up a bit. So it's a bit punchier. Then as always in the curves, I like to flatten out the darks a bit. I will return some dark in Photoshop later with some luminosity masking. Okay, bit of middle, turn that up, bring the highlights down a bit. I like my image to look a bit flat, that's what I just like to do. So we're gonna put in a gradual filter, but first let's crop it down a bit. As you can see, like there's a lot of, it's really badly leveled, my tripod, but we'll try and cut the bottom off a bit. I think from somewhere here. So we've got this mountain rate, the top on about the third. Take a bit of the top as well, but I do want to keep as much as this cloud as possible. I really like it, it's nice and dark. So I think this will be the crop. So in Photoshop we've got some little things to do. Take that off. So I have to fill this top part out in Photoshop, but we'll get to that later. For now the crop is, I think, good. I do want to add a gradual filter at the bottom to brighten up the bright parts and not the dark part. So what I'm going to do is turn on a range mask and just say I want the brightest parts. If I show my luminance mask, you can see that it only affects the red parts, which are the brightest parts. If I turn that back off again, I can turn up the highlights here, the whites a bit as well, so that punches a little bit more. Done. Okay, then I think this is it for the add a bit of contrast. Yeah, a little bit of contrast, and I want to change the hue of the orange a bit. So when I was there a bit later, it was a bit more reddish and it was even more beautiful. So I want to reproduce that a bit by changing the orange hue a bit towards the red. I think with the crop, I think this is a bit too wide. If I pull that in a little bit. Yeah, I think that feels better. I don't know why, but it just feels better. Okay, so that was step 2, just the basic edits, sort of basic edits in Lightroom. Now we'll open the file in Photoshop. I've got the beta version here, because that works well with the M1 chip that's in this laptop. Let's open it up in Photoshop and do some luminosity masking in the mountain range mainly, to make that even more punchier, those rocks sticking out of the bright parts. And I want to do some things with the sky and maybe make the snow in the foreground a bit warmer because it's a bit too blue at this moment. So quick, it opened up in Photoshop, this big file. We're going to leave this one as it is, so I'll press Command J to add a new layer so I can keep the base layer just for what it is, so I can go back to the beginning if needed. So we'll first start by adding in this sky. So with the 1-2 with W, I select this area, then I'll do Shift, function F5, and I'll add with the Content Aware Fill tool, we'll add some sky to it. So, perfect, we have a sky that's complete now. So easy. Now what I want to do first, I think I will start with the bright part. So I'll add a luminosity mask. I work with the TK luminosity masking panel. You could download that in Photoshop, so that was easier. And I want to choose a mask in which I mainly have the white parts here, the snowy parts, and not the trees. So this looks quite good. I'll change it a bit with the levels adjustment, so the white comes out a bit stronger. And I don't want to lighten up the trees, so I want those to be dark in this mask, because with the mask the only thing you're gonna do something with are the light parts. Well, in this case I'll add a new layer and I'll choose apply this as a layer mask. So now we have this layer mask on a new layer, and that layer we're gonna put to soft light, and we'll choose a bright color, and I want kind of a yellowish one like I have here. I think we'll make that a bit brighter even, and then we'll color in the foreground, the snow in the foreground, so that should brighten it up a bit and make it a bit warmer as well. So a bit here as well, this area. So it's mainly about this foreground for me. And you can barely see what I'm doing actually, but it did brighten it up quite a lot. So that's for the foreground. I will call this foreground. Then the next step is to increase the contrast in those rocks a bit between the snow. So I want a layer mask which just gives me the dark parts. Let's zoom in a bit. Maybe this one, I think. That looks pretty good. And we'll also change this with the levels adjustment. So I want the white parts, which are actually the dark parts. In this case, in the mask, they're white because I want to mask out the lighter parts. So they're going to be black. And okay, cool, like this. Yeah, just the parts that I want to adjust come out a bit better. So that's perfect. I'll make a new layer. Oh, no, I don't want to delete this layer. I want to add a layer, I said. I will add this as a layer mask. Perfect. Call this rocks. And now we'll go to a dark color. So black would be good. And with a bit smaller brush. I said a smaller brush. Somehow my short keys don't always work anymore. I don't know what it is, but it's very annoying. Turn this to soft light as well. And we'll just draw in a bit heavy-handed at this moment, but that's okay. Draw in some of that darkness again and bring those rocks, give them more punch, because we're making a bigger contrast between the whites of the snow and the blacks or the darks of the rocks, which gives contrast, which makes it stronger. Also, the shadows might just be getting a bit darker like this. And again, you can barely see what I'm doing, but if I turn this off and on, you can just see the darkest parts getting darker. Now, I should have started on one side because I don't know where I started. I did this part, I think it was here. So I'll do a bit of this again. Like if I'm doing this for myself, I'll be a bit more precise. But now for this video, I just want to show you what I'm doing. Okay, cool. Okay, now if I zoom out, you'll see that the rocks have gotten a bit darker, the dark areas. So it's a bit more punchy like this. So my camera got too hot, so I couldn't film anymore, but it's back again, it's working. So I don't know where we left last time, but at least now we have the foreground and the rocks. We added a little bit of contrast to it. If we can press Alt and press the first layer, we can see the difference that made. What we haven't done yet is add some contrast to the sky. So let's do that as well with the midtones adjustment layer or luminosity mask. I think this is a good basis. Go to the levels again and we'll add a bit of contrast to those levels, to this luminosity mask. See, so something like this. Okay, cool. So there's a good luminosity mask. So like these parts are a bit darker, so I'm mainly gonna darken down now the bottom side of the clouds. That's the idea at least. So we'll make a new layer, add this as a layer mask, call this clouds, and again we'll take a dark color, we'll zoom in a bit, and we're going to start darkening down the bottom of the clouds a bit. Now this is a bit heavy-handed, but that's okay for now. I will bring down the contrast in the end. The opacity, so it's not gonna be that heavy-handed. See, just find some spots which are the bottom of the clouds. Oh, it's so annoying that my hotkeys aren't working. If you know why my hotkeys aren't working, please let me know, because it's super annoying. Here as well, try to make the cloud have a bottom side a bit more. bottom side. Make the bottom a bit darker of the clouds so they stand out a bit more. Oh, and now it's working. I really don't get it. Sometimes they're working the hotkeys and sometimes they don't. So now this looks absolutely crap like this. So what we'll do is that we'll go to the opacity and bring that down a lot. So, and now it has just brought that clouds a bit more to life. By first making it too heavy, bringing it down a bit. So now the whole image is nice and contrasty. We'll end it off with a bit of a vignette, the way I make them normally, with the brightness slider all the way down. Invert this layer mask and then just draw it in with white. So just darken these corners a bit, darken the foreground. And also this I'm doing too heavy-handed, but we'll bring the opacity down so it looks nice in the end. But this is just so I can see what I'm doing. I'll do it like this bit, I think. So I said this is way too much. So by bringing this opacity down, I think something like that. We'll add it together, Command Alt Shift E into a new layer, which will give a nice stroke around it, 15 pixels. And we're done. Save. And that should be it. That should be the final result of this image. So yeah, I was gonna test out my laptop. So let me give you my results and my ideas on this laptop. It's insane. Like, we started off with 94% battery. I now have 87% battery while I'm recording my screen, editing a heavy file in Photoshop and Lightroom. It works super good. My file size is too big. I'll save it as a PSB. Like, all the things that work, as you see, the file is bigger than 4 gigabytes, but all the adjustments that I'm making are totally fluent. So yeah, I'm super happy with it. It's a good addition. I did notice with video editing that it gives some problems sometimes, but for the photo editing, it's magnificent. I'm very happy with it. So let's end with the final result. I'll show it to you now, and then I hope to see you next week, where we go out into nature again. Well, we're in nature now as well, but we're gonna go photograph nature. Maybe here, I don't know yet. I'm gonna figure out now when I'm done with this, and I hope to see you then. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.